Hey everyone, welcome. Let's talk about the tiny, tireless workers that literally make life possible. I'm talking about proteins. They're the little machines inside every single one of our cells, doing everything, carrying out all the instructions written in our DNA. But what are these incredible machines actually built from? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. So, our story actually starts way back. Way back in 1838. A scientist, J.J. Berzelius, came up with the word protein. He got it from the Greek word proteos, which means primary or of first importance. He had this hunch, that these molecules were absolutely fundamental to life, the principal substance of what we eat. And let me tell you, he had no idea just how right he was. To really get a handle on just how important they are, you just have to look at the world around you. The incredible diversity is mind-blowing. You see the magical glow of a firefly? Yep, that's a protein. An enzyme called luciferase, to be exact, working its magic, turning chemical energy straight into light. But, it's not all about creating light shows. Take something completely different, like the tough, seriously formidable horn of a rhinoceros. Guess what? That's also a protein. In this case, it's a structural protein called keratin. It's the exact same stuff that makes up your hair and your fingernails. So you go from this beautiful light all the way to brute physical structure. Their range is just wow. And it's not just out there in the world, it's right here, inside of us, keeping us alive every single second. Think about this. Every breath you take right now depends on a protein. It's called hemoglobin, and it's packed into your red blood cells, grabbing oxygen from your lungs and hustling it out to every single corner of your body. Pretty important, right? Okay, so this brings us to the big question, the real mystery here. You've got a firefly's glow, a rhino's horn, and the very oxygen flowing through your veins. All of it is built from proteins. So how? How does nature create such an incredible, astonishing variety from what, as it turns out, is a surprisingly simple and universal toolkit? Well, the answer is just so elegant, it's beautiful. It all comes down to a universal alphabet. Think about it. The English alphabet has 26 letters, right? And with those 26 letters, you can write anything from a simple shopping list to a masterpiece by Shakespeare. Life does the exact same thing. The entire language of proteins is written with just 20 key molecules, and those molecules are the amino acids. All right, so if we're going to understand proteins, we've got to understand the letters they're written with. So let's zoom in and look at the universal blueprint. What is an amino acid really? Okay, at its heart, every amino acid has this really simple, really consistent structure. It all starts with a central carbon atom, which we call the alpha carbon. And attached to that central carbon, you've got four things, always. You've got an amino group, a carboxyl group, a single hydrogen atom, and then this one variable part called the R group, or the side chain. And here's what that looks like. See that carbon right in the middle? That's our alpha carbon. Bonded to it, you can see the amino group, the carboxyl group, and that hydrogen atom. And then you see that R? That's the R group we were just talking about. That's the key. That's where all the magic, all the variation comes from. So let's think of it like this. That central carbon, the amino group, the carboxyl group, and the hydrogen, all of that stuff together forms a constant backbone. For basically all of the common amino acids, this part never ever changes. It is the universal foundation. And this is the most important part to remember. The identity of each amino acid, its unique personality, its chemical character, all of it comes down to that one variable piece, the R group. That side chain is what makes, say, an alanine totally different from a lysine. It's what gives each letter in our alphabet its own special shape and its own unique way of behaving. Okay, but it gets even cooler. There's another layer of complexity here, and it's all about shape. It's not just what the amino acid is made of, it's about how it's arranged in 3D space. And this leads us to one of the most fascinating and fundamental rules in all of biology. So, because that central alpha carbon is attached to four different things, amino acids are what we call chiral. It's a bit of a fancy word, but it just means they have a handedness. Seriously, just look at your own two hands. They're mirror images of each other, right? But you can't lay one perfectly on top of the other. A left-handed glove won't fit on your right hand. Amino acids are exactly the same. They come in a left-handed form, which we call L, and a right-handed form called D. And here is where we see one of life's most profound and kind of weird decisions.
Out of the two possible forms, life on Earth, for whatever reason, almost exclusively picked just one. The amino acid residues that make up proteins are, with very few exceptions, all L-isomers. They are all the left-handed version. And this consistency is absolutely critical. It's the only way proteins can fold up into stable, functional, and repeating shapes.
Okay, so let's recap. We have 20 unique letters for our alphabet, and they're all left-handed. Now, to make sense of these 20 letters, scientists group them into different families. And they do it based on the chemical properties of their R groups. You know, that one part that makes each of them unique. So let's dive in and meet the families. First up, we have a group called the nonpolar aliphatic R groups. Now, the main thing to know about these guys is that they're hydrophobic. That literally means water-fearing. So when a protein is floating around in the watery environment inside a cell and starts to fold up, these amino acids all huddle together on the inside, trying to get away from the water. And that push is a huge reason why proteins fold the way they do. Next, meet the aromatic R groups. You can usually spot these pretty easily because they have these big, bulky ring structures in their side chains. They're also mostly nonpolar, but they have this really cool party trick. They can absorb UV light. And this isn't just a fun fact, it's super useful for scientists. It's one of the main ways they can figure out how much protein is in a test tube. All right, now let's meet the total opposites of that first group we talked about. These are the polar, uncharged R groups. Their side chains have atoms like oxygen in them, which makes them hydrophilic or water-loving. So unlike those water-faring guys who hide on the inside, these amino acids are perfectly happy to hang out on the surface of a protein, interacting with all the water around them. Our fourth group takes that water-loving thing and dials it up a notch. These are the positively charged or basic R groups. At the normal pH you'd find inside a cell, their side chains carry a clear positive charge. This makes them super hydrophilic and really, really important for all sorts of interactions between proteins and other molecules. And finally, to keep everything in balance, we have our fifth group, the negatively charged or acidic R groups. Their side chains have a whole extra carboxyl group, and that gives them a net negative charge inside the cell. They're the perfect counterparts to that positively charged group we just met. So all this talk about positive and negative charges brings us to one last, super important property of all amino acids. Remember how they have that basic amino group and that acidic carboxyl group? Well, because of that, they have this really fascinating dual nature. When you put an amino acid in water at a neutral pH, it exists as something called a zwitterion. I know, it's a German word, kind of sounds funny. It just means hybrid ion. And all it means is that the acidic carboxyl end has lost a proton, so it's negative, and at the same time, the basic amino end has gained a proton, so it's positive. So you got a plus and a minus on the same molecule, which means its overall net charge is 0. And this is what makes them so chemically versatile. If you put them in an acidic solution, they'll end up with a net positive charge. Put them in a basic solution, and they'll get a net negative charge. This ability to act as both an acid and a base, the technical term is amphoteric, is absolutely fundamental to how proteins, especially enzymes, do their jobs. So, there you have it. We've gone on this huge journey, all the way from the incredible diversity of proteins back down to their fundamental building blocks. We've seen that they all share a common structure, but each one has a unique R group that gives it its personality. We learned about life's strict left-handed rule and how these molecules can act as both acids and bases. It's amazing, really. A simple 20-letter alphabet that, just by being arranged in different ways, writes the entire complex story of life. And it really makes you wonder, if this is the story that's been written so far, what other incredible things are left for these 20 letters to write?